Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Las Vegas. It is wonderful to be together, both virtual and in person. My name is Margaret. I'm your worship associate today, and I use they, them pronouns. Our worship leader is Keri, who uses she, her pronouns. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever you believe about life's journey, you are welcome here. We broadcast a video feed for our virtual attendees. If you wish to not be in that recording, please sit toward the back or sides of the sanctuary. Today, during Of Our Hearts, we will express our joys and sorrows through the pebble and water ritual, familiar to many UUs. We will read the name of anyone written in the book or in the chat. During Of Our Hearts, you can also choose to participate in the movement ritual if you like. Toward the end of service, we will share a few announcements here from the pulpit. We hope you'll join us as well for coffee hour. If you're new here, you are our guest, and we look forward to getting to know each other. Having your chosen name and pronouns visible during the service is an act of loving kindness. For those in the sanctuary, we encourage you to wear a name tag that includes your pronouns. For those in our virtual space, please edit your name so that it includes your pronouns. When we come together, we get to practice creating inclusive, worshipful spaces together. Please silence any noise-making rectangles and refrain from using the chat on Zoom. Please also move in ways that your body needs. It's okay if you need to wiggle, stand up, sleep, or fidget. All bodies are welcome here. Welcome to our service. It's good to be with you today. The Unitarian Universalist congregation of Las Vegas is situated on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi Southern Paiute people. We are grateful for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to worship, learn, work, grow, and be in community with this land and her peoples. We encourage everyone present here to engage in continued learning about the indigenous peoples who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Mawapa Band of Paiutes, and about the historical and ongoing realities of colonialism. Let's take a moment to appreciate the use of Southern Paiute land as part of our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive space for worship, spiritual enrichment, and exploration within the community. Today, we are highlighting the Ox-Sam camp, which is a native prayer camp at Thacker Pass, Nevada, blockading a massive open-pit lithium mine. The planned mine would deface a sacred site within one of the project's open pits, irreparably destroying a source of traditional medicine and prayer integral to the surrounding tribes. Consider exploring the social media presence of Ox-Sam camp, sharing information, and donating your time, treasure, or talents to uplift this important and prayerful resistance. It is important that as we continue our transition to a greener future, that we do not repeat the horrors of the past. Will we continue to desecrate native sites, or will we move toward a future where we respect their autonomy? When we gather together, we light the chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The chalice reminds us that we are connected to a much larger religious tradition that stretches out of the past, reaches around the world, and leans into our shared future. Now please join with me. We light the chalice as a reminder that we are a beacon in the desert. May its light lead the way to love, acceptance, and justice as we strive for personal and societal transformation.
Good morning. I'd like to start with the words of Jennifer Jo VonRue and Lizette Lewis entitled, Being Sanctuary. Welcome to this space, this sanctuary of peace, where we come to not only create our best selves, but also to do the work of creating a beloved community. We come together today as individuals, much like the individual pieces of glass or pottery that are different shapes, sizes, and colors, all of which are broken with imperfect jagged edges, but always beautiful. While our pieces may not always fit together neatly together, it is within this sanctuary, guided by our principles, that we gather together to create a beautiful mosaic. May the brokenness and beauty you find in one another create peace in this space and fill our hearts with love as we create worship together. So, with a sermon title about the dark side, I thought about showing up in a Darth Vader mask, or at least carrying a lightsaber. If I'd have one, I'd want it to be orange. I don't know if that's canon, but I'd want my lightsaber to be orange. And I've been told that if it was, that would be an indication that I am on the dark side. I just like orange. I have one other reading I'd like to share with you this morning by Jennifer Kitchen called Come Sit by Our Fire. Come sit by our fire and let us share stories. Let me hear your tales of far-off lands, wanderer, and I will tell you of my travels. Share your experience of the holy with me, worshiper, for ours isn't, and I will tell you that which I find divine. Come and stay, lover of leaving, for ours is no caravan of despair, but of hope. We would hear your stories of grief and sorrow as readily of those of joy and laughter, for there is a time and a place for hearing all of the stories of this world. Stories are the breath and word of the Spirit of life, that power which we name love. Come, for our fire is warm, and we have seats for all. Come again and yet again. Come speak to me of what fills your heart, what engages your mind, what resides in your soul. Come, let us worship together. And now,
we will now ground ourselves in the present and honor the thread of humanity that connects us as living beings. As humans striving toward a beloved community, we have the privilege and responsibility to hold on to each other as we live the joys and sorrows of life. Today, we will take part in a common UU ritual of marking our joys and sorrows by dropping a pebble in water. The pebble signifies a lightness or burden on your heart. The water represents the love and strength of our community to surround, support, and celebrate you. Please use the microphone to speak those names in your heart or write them in the book. We will read those names at the conclusion of this ritual. If you would like to participate, please line up along the center aisle. For those on Zoom, you can also participate in this ritual by dropping a small pebble into a container of water to represent a joy or sorrow. We may not see you, but we witness you in spirit. We also hold up Quinn and Blank Taguma, Dan Tussig, Ann Sustick, and Andrea Evans. Irma, do we have anybody in the chat?
Yes, please hold up Peggy Oakes, Anthony Zavalensky, Chiwaniso, and Korai.
Thank you for participating in that shared ritual. May we hold that which is spoken and that which is kept in the silence of our hearts in love and compassion. We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. The offering supports the mission of the congregation to be a beacon of love and justice in the desert, and supports local organizations working to make our community a better place for all. The offering this month is shared with Ukrainian Families Fundraiser, sponsored by Prairie UU in Parker, Colorado. Families have recently taken refuge in the USA and Prairie UU are holding a fundraiser so they may continue to offer them financial support. The collection made today will help the families with their needs as they get started. The link to donate your offering will be in the chat on Zoom, and our ushers are passing the plates where you can donate. And now, please join with me. With gratitude for the abundance in our own lives, we give for the life of this congregation and the benefit of the larger community. Thank you all. We are grateful for your offerings of time and talent, as well as treasure. Today's reading is adapted from a writing by Eric Walker Wickstrom called "The Purpose of This Community is to Help Its People Grow." If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who they were, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be. Because these encounters have many gifts to offer. Let yourself imagine this morning not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all.
Sorry about that. So, one thing, this isn't long. It's about money, so I'm keeping it short. I know it's an uncomfortable subject. So, for most of my life, I believed I walked on the side of light. But back at the turn of the millennium, I discovered, at least in terms of my profession, I walked on the dark side. In 1999, I moved back to Tucson, Arizona, with the goal of completing the coursework necessary to finally finish the associate's degree I'd started several years earlier. In order to keep body and soul together and to pay for the rent and other necessities of life, I worked as a temp doing accounting and office admin. I was fortunate to get what turned into a long-term assignment at a local nonprofit that focused on the needs of people with mental health and/or developmental issues. One day, near the holidays, the entire accounting finance department went out to lunch together. As I walked through the large open room that was the office of this nonprofit, with a couple of my coworkers, I overheard someone from another department say, "There goes the dark side." So I asked my coworker what was meant by the comment. She explained that the other folk in the organization think of the accounting folks as the dark side because we're the ones who say no to their aspirations by asking, "How are you going to pay for that?" After I had time to reflect, I could see how it could be perceived that way. In a nonprofit environment, the accounting department is the primary interface with the for-profit world. And let's face it, most of our world right now is a for-profit world. Its focus seems to be making sure the bills get paid, more so than taking care of the people the organization is supposed to serve. Over time, I came to embrace, in a humorous way, my place on the dark side. You'll sometimes hear me say, "Yeah, I'm on the dark side." I believe the reality of life is if the bills don't get paid, an organization will not be able to serve anyone because it'll be out of business. I decided to stand for treasurer because I came to realize it was the best way I can use the skills I acquired over my 40 years of my career in service to the church. Those skills include my existence on the dark side of the nonprofit world. As the treasurer, I've been on hand as I just came on about a little over a month ago, and we've confronted some recent crises, in particular the problem associated with the backlot and its use and misuse. During the discussion about a month ago, I heard some seemingly really great ideas for fixing the problem, but that would only work if we had lots of money to throw at it. You know, I know we don't have that kind of money, and I found myself thinking that this congregation needs to have a sermon from the dark side. Unfortunately, I said that out loud in Mark Berthold's hearing, and that's why I'm here today. Oh well. You know, there's this myth of the well-funded church. It's the one that has huge endowments, maybe more than one of them, and a whole cadre of deep-pocketed congregants who can reach into those deep pockets anytime we need more money. You know, we ain't that church. And so, you know, as I've come before Million, I have a better understanding of our actual financial position. The truth is, it's not great. We have enough in the bank to pay our current obligations and expected expenses, and as long as the pledge payments and donations flow in as we've budgeted, we should be able to continue like that. This makes us like many American households. Our income is sufficient to cover our expenses, but there's not much left for anything extra. But we're better off than many of those households in that we have a small reserve account. Small. In the absence of any other income, it could keep us going for about a month, maybe more if we're frugal, but it won't last much longer than that. We need the continuing income. I hope we never have to dip into it, and I would be ecstatic if over the course of my year as treasurer we can add to that reserve account, because honestly we need to. But we need so many things. However, while our financial position is not great, it's not horrible. And I've worked at companies that are much, much worse off than we are, and some of them just continue to limp along, so, you know, we do that. We have some advantages over that typical American household. A big one is that we have no long-term debt or even really short-term debt. We have no debt. No mortgages, no other long-term loans. All our expenses are current ones. That's a big deal. The resignation of Reverend Gordon may turn out to be another advantage because the church has been relieved of its single biggest current obligation, his salary. That money will be available to meet other expenses. The trick is to use it wisely. I have hopes of that because of what I think of as our biggest advantages. We have two major assets. One, it's on the books, and the other one is not. Both are important and our ability to survive into the future. They are both all around us. The first asset, the one on our books, is our building and the land it stands upon. Again, we have no mortgage. I've seen church books before. I've worked as a temp as the church admin, so I really have. Lots of churches are making mortgage payments. Those are hard. Got to make sure that gets paid. We don't have that. We also don't have to pay rent because we own the building. It's ours. So that eliminates what is often the biggest expense of households, churches, and businesses, a place to be. In fact, we currently generate income from our ownership of the building because we receive rent for the cell tower, and that's not small. That comes in monthly. And we also get money for the food truck out front, which also makes us easier to find at night. There has been much discussion about the best way to utilize this significant asset of UUCLV. And I know the discussion will continue. Do we sell it? Do we keep it? Do we rent out our space more, et cetera, et cetera? It's not the purpose of my talk, so I want to move on to what I think is our most important asset, even though it does not show up on the books. That asset is us. All of us, the congregation, the community, the members and friends of UUCLV. It's a resource that gives me hope that our future is actually bright, despite the fact that we don't have lots of money and now we don't even have a minister. Oh well. Already, we're moving forward thanks to members of our community. Mark and Nina have come up with a plan to fill the pulpit using the resources of our congregation and denomination. Even better, to my mind, they're doing it at a much lower cost than a minister's salary. A complaint I often hear, and I'm sure all of you do, is that we don't have a religious education program. Well, you know, that's not entirely true. We do have one. It's meeting on the other side of that wall right now. Shamefully, it's not well supported by the community at large. In fact, I think a lot of us forget that it's there. The fact that it exists at all is due to the hard work of Rory, Ariel, and the other members of our community. It is my hope that we will acknowledge that work and embrace them as they deserve. And I'm hoping they hear of this, if they let us know what they need, there's now a little cash available for their program. And I think they deserve it. Music is another area of complaint. And again, we've been working on it. Maggie and soon Kay have been providing beautiful music. Maggie on the piano. I'm not sure what Kay plays. Everything, oh, even better. Margaret and Marin have stepped up as song leaders. I'm especially grateful to Margaret this week. This sermon happens to coincide with the week that the Finance Committee meets. You're never going to see me on the second month, up here on the second week of the month again. I learned the hard way. I can't do both. I'm really grateful to her because especially church music, it's just not my strong suit. When thinking about music for the service, the best I could come up with was an obscure hit by the Kinks from the late 70s, you know, low budget. Fortunately, they came up with the perfect hymns. Our congregation is rich in one way. We have a reliable group of volunteers that work very hard to keep things going. You'll sometimes hear them referred to as the usual suspects because they're the same 16 to 20 people who show up when we call an all-hands meeting because we've got to address that. You all know who you are. A couple of examples that come to mind because these folks work especially hard. You know, our building's an old one, which means there are countless things that need to be done to keep it in good working order. Currently, Larry McAllister, I understand Bruce used to be the person who does the bulk of that work. And Jane does a lot of that work too, and you know, they could use some help. Our membership has also grown, in the last year. Membership growth is usually redounds to the credit of the minister. You know, that's one of the things they look, is a minister successful? Did your membership grow? But I'm going to argue that a lot of the credit for our membership growth belongs to Susanna Monette, and I know Mary Barden works with her, and of course Bobby is the head of the greeters in that membership committee. And they also could probably appreciate some help. And there are many more who could and should be mentioned. But this isn't Volunteer Sunday. This is about all of us. We are all part of UUCLV, and I know we all have something to offer. We thrive best when each of us contributes our time and talent. We also have some members, especially some of our longtime members, who are able to make larger contributions. As a finance person, I have to admit, I really get excited when those large checks, especially those 4- or 5-figure checks, show up, because I know it means that the bills will be paid for a while longer. But if you're one of those people, I want you to know that you are deeply appreciated. However, the reality is our bread and butter is made up of smaller contributions. That dollar you put on the plate just now is also very important. And you, all of you who contribute, are deeply appreciated. We all thrive when each of us contributes our treasure. The title of this talk is Messages from the Dark Side. And in keeping with that theme, I'm going to pose a question from the bad guys from my favorite science fiction series, which isn't Star anything, it's Babylon 5. In Babylon 5, there were a big good and a big bad. The Vorlons were the big good, and the Shadows were the big bad evil folk. They were both elder races that sought to guide, more importantly, control the younger races of the galaxy. They both had a question they posed. The Vorlons said, who are you? The Shadows asked, what do you want? I'd modify that slightly. What do you need? It's a good question when confronting your spiritual practice. What do you need? But I'm not offering it in that way. I'm offering it as a question you can ask if you want to help this community, but are not sure how. You asked me that question in my role as treasurer of this congregation. My flippant answer would be easy. More cash, please! But then if I'm a little more thoughtful, the answer would be whatever you can and want to give. But especially your time, talent, and creativity. We aren't that well-founded church. We're the scrappy little church who can get it done because we've got amazing people. And the reality is we all thrive when we all do what we can. And by the way, I'm done. I'm going to sit down now, and you can say thank you very much.
So our call to action, as we step into this new phase of our church together, what do you want to see at UUCLV? What would make this space more welcoming, more enriching, more worthwhile to you? And importantly, What steps can you take to start to make those changes a reality? Our benediction is adapted by a writing from Lynn Cox. Your gifts are welcome. We travel together on a search for meaning, having come from many different places and bringing many different gifts to share for the journey. Bless those who bring the gift of courage. Bless those who bring the gift of love. Bless those who bring the gift of curiosity. Bless those who bring the gift of hospitality. Each of you, your gifts are welcome on this journey.
And now, please join with me. We release that which was called with love and gratitude, and we extinguish the flame, but not our commitment to being a beacon in the desert. This burns brightly until we gather again.
We have room for 3 announcements to be read at upcoming services. If you want your announcement read, please email Irma by Thursday, and she will get it to the worship associate. Please include the name of the event, the date and time, a contact name, and no more than a 30-word description. First, we have a couple of meetings happening today after the service. The Newcomers Chalice Circle will be in the library from 12 to 2. You can see Ariel for more information. And the Pagan Pride Day planning meeting will be happening from 1 to 3 p.m. and you can see Donna or Irma for more information. Second, the OWL Caregivers meeting is happening on Friday, August 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. If you are interested, you can contact UUCLV at uuclvowl@gmail.com. Finally, the congregational meeting is this Saturday, August 19th from noon to 2 p.m. on Zoom. We hope to see you there. Oh, surprise, there's a 4th one. The food pantry is also this coming Saturday. Volunteers are always needed. Please arrive at 7:30 a.m. In addition to the ones read here, there are many more announcements and events this week and in the coming weeks. To see them, head over to our webpage using the QR code on the screen. You can also find the full list of announcements in the flash. Thank you for being with us today, and we hope to see you again.